I'm Ashley. Welcome to my space here. Today we're going to get a little bit weird. I have my relationship toolbox for you today, and that is going to be called the leapfrog. Or frog or whatever. I'm just working with the animal, the spirit animal of the frog. So we're going to be connecting with the frog today, and the spirit animal of the frog always comes to me to remind me to lighten up and to play and to use my voice and to open, to be soft, to sing, not really sing, but kind of what I meant by like using your voice. So we're going to do a few different little stretches and yoga poses here that are like, don't really think of yoga, just think of them as stretching and just having some fun. I just want you to come here to have some fun and to really like connect with yourself. So I think one of the most important relationships we have is the relationship to our voice. And one of the ways that we can really stop ourselves from using our voices is when we really block that relationship with our creativity. And one of the reasons we can block this relationship with our creativity is because maybe it wasn't accepted, or maybe it wasn't seen as valuable. This could be like growing up in our like family dynamics and our family systems. But I think more now than ever we need more creativity, more art, more beauty, and we need to be using our voices. Not only to express ourselves and express our feelings, but also to express our individuality, express our uniqueness, just express more of truly who we are as a soul, rather than people pleasing or like putting on this image to be accepted or loved, or we have those fears of rejection and abandonment, which are all kind of like coming up right now. So if you have any of those wounds, like if you have fears of intimacy, fears of loss, fears of rejection, I'm with you there, definitely. I'm also feeling this deep desire just to connect. And so the word that we're going to use today, the word I want you to keep in mind, is curiosity. So I think it's really important. I feel like a lot right now we're learning how to take risks and learning how to like really have like summon courage. And like sometimes it's a risk. It takes vulnerability to express ourselves, right? To express our voice, to express our truth, to express ourselves maybe through art, or to express ourselves through our clothing, or through how we present ourselves. And so sometimes this can take a risk. And what I'm really noticing is people wanting to take risks, people wanting to like step more out of their comfort zones. But when this is happening, like as much as you want it and your soul might be craving it, at the same time, your mind, your ego is going to fight it because it likes patterns. It likes habits. It likes, like I said, patterns. It likes to know what's coming. And so that it can try to predict and try to protect you and try to understand. But I can tell you for sure right now, we didn't come here to be understood. We came here to fully and authentically express ourselves. So that's kind of the whole thing. So let's get a little bit curious today. One of those things is like I've been noticing with my own self is that I'm getting kind of trapped in my own mind. And so like I'm going to kind of lead you through a meditation here at the end, a quick little one, to help you find your inner voice. Because sometimes we can be so lost in our mind and we become so identified with the voices and that chatter that's constantly in our minds. We identify that with our sense of self. And our sense of self is not our thoughts. We are the observer of our thoughts. So if you kind of think of a frog, they kind of just like, how they can kind of be very still? Think of that. We need to bring more stillness into our lives so that we can observe. And so we don't, we need to take more precise action rather than impulsive action. And if you think of the game, this is the game literally that I cannot stop thinking about, and it makes me laugh so much, is the game Frogger. I don't know if you ever played this like growing up. But it was one that like I remember playing a lot. Is when it was like you're trying to hop across the traffic and you're trying not to get hit by the cars. That's kind of what it feels like right now energetically. It's like learning how to hop through this energy, like without being run over by it. And that can be really hard. It's important to laugh at yourself. I'm laughing at myself now because that's kind of like the image I'm seeing. It's like sometimes, like I feel like I'm in the clear and I'm like, yes, I'm like, and then I can jump, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh shoot, there's cars, I have to stop. And sometimes we don't like to stop. We like to keep going, especially, but it's important to, if we have to stop in order to prevent ourselves from being run over, or like you could see the being run over in the game, like getting burnt out. So, and kind of like depleting yourself and killing yourself, because right, if you jumped out in front of the car, you'd get hit. So I kind of just wanted to bring us into this energy, like I said, of I want to help you connect to earth. If you think of frogs, they're very connected to the earth. They kind of live in the dirt. And I don't know, I just really like the energy of the frog. And so we're going to go into froggy pose right away here. But first we're going to ground ourselves. So we're going to ground ourselves to earth. And this frog pose is really helpful for the root chakra. So we really want to, when we're in this position, it might bring up a lot of pain. It might bring up a lot of difficulty. You might hear things, like you might hear that voice that says like, I can't, this is painful. This is a waste of my time. I want you to remember, if you came to this, that to this video, and you're watching this video and you're here, then I want you to really believe and trust that you're here and you're meant to be doing these things, and you're meant to be hearing this, or you're meant to be seeing this, or you're meant to be doing this. Because I really encourage you to get up and to do this with me, to not just like observe me, but if you are, that's okay too. I totally understand. But I really encourage you to get up and come join me and to stand on the ground. We're going to plant our feet on the earth, and we're just going to connect to earth. And how we're going to do that, we're just going to bring awareness. Remember, our word is curiosity. So how can we be more open-minded? How can we be more open-hearted? And how can we open more of our creative center? So what's really important to remember, especially for women, is that like our vaginal walls are created of the same tissue as our throats. And that's why I was kind of getting at, is like using our voices. And a lot of times when we're cut off here from our like our sexuality and our sensuality, this prevents us from using our voice. And what would happen to me, I noticed this, I really want to share these things, is because my past has really inspired me to share these things, because I really wish I would have had these resources and I would have had these tools as a younger kid. And what I mean is, I wish I would have had yoga. I wish I would have had this opportunity to find this stillness within me, because I was surrounded by a lot of chaos. And why I want to share this is because we're surrounded by chaos right now, and children, because they're not able to go to school, are really maybe stuck in homes where the only relief they got was from at school, from those teachers that like loved them and gave them attention, because they're not getting that attention at home, or the meals they might not be getting at home but they got at school. And so this can cause a lot of distress in children. It can cause a lot of chaos, and it can make their nervous system really, they never get any release, and so they're always on guard. And I can tell you that this happened to me, because a lot of our children are feeling this, whether you believe it or not, or whether you can see it, or whether you're able to see it in them or not, but they're able to feel the subtle energies of the things and the shifts that are happening on the earth right now. And it's really heavy, and it can get really exhausting for children that are highly sensitive. And I was a highly sensitive child. There was not a lot of information about this. I couldn't tell my parents that I was experiencing extreme amounts of anxiety and that I needed help. I couldn't say that. I didn't know how to express that. And so it was nothing that ever like was dealt with. It was just kind of, that's just how I learned how to live. And we have this very intelligent part of us when we're children that help us to cope. And because my anxiety was so overwhelming, my body couldn't take that, is that this intelligent part of mine, it's not really intelligence, because as you get older, it really actually hinders you. But at that time period, it's really it's called self-preservation. So we see it as like self-betrayal. And what happens, and what I noticed within myself, is that I became very withdrawn, because I was feeling so much. I was not feeling just my own emotions, but the emotions of the people around me, my parents, the people at school. I was feeling things collectively, like the suffering of the world, the suffering of animals, the suffering of the earth, the suffering of children, like the poverty and the abuse and the violence and the war. And this really took a toll on my nervous system, and it really took a toll on my mental health. So it's really important that we connect to our bodies again. And that's like what I was saying. I became very withdrawn. So if you notice that your kid has become like, for me, I was very like outgoing, very like kind of vibrant. I was also kind of like shy and timid at the same time. I was kind of taught to be that way. But I always had a lot of life, and you could really see this. But then I would say around like ages 5 or 6 when I began to like go into kindergarten, and kind of after there, it was like I just became very withdrawn. That's the perfect word. Is like I just had to go. I had to completely disconnect from my body because the amount of stress I was feeling in my body, I just ached and was in pain all the time, and so I had to disconnect from my body. And from the anxiety I was feeling all the time, I had to disconnect from my mind. So it's like I wasn't even present. I was not even with myself, and this created a lot of internal chaos within myself. And this is when I went to like addictions, and I would use food as a way to cope. So if you notice your children are trying to cope in different ways because they're not able to socialize, or they're just taking this time really hard, then it's really important to be gentle with them, to be, I'm not saying like to be easy on them or to let them get away with things, but to be understanding, to be empathetic, and to understand that they are going through things that maybe we're not even seeing or that we're not understanding. And so maybe even just using these practices, using these tools that I'm giving you can help you to maybe help that relationship with your child. If you notice them becoming distant or you notice them becoming withdrawn, my senses were completely overwhelmed. So when you're highly sensitive, your senses are just heightened. So my visual senses, like I see in very vibrant, bright colors. Like I see the details of everything. I see different like contrasts, and like my eyes are just very powerful. And then also with my hearing. And so this can get really stimulated by all the things we're learning all day long. So we're sitting in the classroom, our eyes are open all day long. We're absorbing so much information. We're not only absorbing the stuff we're learning in school, but we're absorbing our environment, what our friends are wearing, the things we see on posters, and there's so much information blown and shot at us at one time that it's very overwhelming for children. And this really takes a toll, like I said, on the nervous system and on our mental health. And so, or like smells, like overwhelming smells. Like you're always, as children, we're not operating from our logical minds like we were as we are as adults. So it's really important to really connect with your own inner child to be able to see how your child is viewing life. So they're viewing it through their senses. They're viewing it through their sight, they're viewing it through their sound, they're viewing it through their touch, through their taste, through their feelings, through their emotions, through their sensations. And so when you are highly sensitive and you begin to have those things blasted at you and you don't have an outlet, you don't have a place you can go to relax, you don't have that environment that's comforting and safe and where you can feel like you can talk about your feelings or express to your guardians what's going on with you. Like if you don't have that, then you can become very like withdrawn, and you just don't want to, like you just completely disconnect as a way to protect yourself. But what happens when you're an adult, and this really begins to affect your adult relationships. So not only is this a great practice for you and connecting with your own child or your own inner child, it's also a great practice for your intimate relationships. Because I think that what we need more than ever with couples and in romance and with those kind of relationships is we need more innocence. We need more playfulness. We need to connect from that place. And if you're in a relationship and there's no playfulness, there's no flirtation, there's no innocence in your relationship, then you're relating strictly from your minds, from your ego minds, from your conditioning, rather than from your own heart, from your own purity. And so this is when we begin to relate from wounds, and we attract people, that are a match to like our abandonment wounds, or a match to our betrayal wounds. And this can really affect, adult relationships. And so when we can really learn how to regulate our own emotions, because we're going to feel strong emotions, and as an adult and as a parent, it's really our job to help our children navigate their very strong, big emotions. And if we can't do that for ourselves, if we can't regulate our own big emotions, then how are we going to do it for our children, right? Or how are we going to sit through it when our partner is experiencing a big emotion? Are we going to allow it to trigger us, or are we going to be able to sit there and listen? So I think that's another great thing to incorporate, is learning to listen to your own inner voice, listen to your own inner wisdom. And that's what I think getting curious is about, because this is kind of like a very beginner's mindset, a very childlike way of approaching things, because you want to do things like they're brand new. So you have this sense of excitement, you have this sense of vitality, you have this sense of like, I'm going to learn. And when you surrender to that, you let go of control and you open up to, you know, just new possibilities, new ways of seeing things, new perspectives are given to you. You might have like epiphanies or like aha moments, or just these breakthroughs where you're just like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that I didn't see this. And that's what curiosity is all about. So one thing I love about curiosity and exploring my body, and that's one thing, that's why I love yoga and I want to share it so much, is because I loved being in my body, especially as a kid. And it's like learning to laugh at yourself. Like when you have that curiosity mindset, you're able to like have that playfulness and laugh at yourself too, because you're learning something new. Like how can you know, you can't be great at something unless you try it first, right? So you have to have that like, okay, I've never done this before, but I'm gonna give it a shot and I'm just gonna like see how it goes. So like be easy on yourself. And like I said, we're gonna move into this froggy pose. I just wanted to, you know, get that out there, because really I think about like you can either be a victim to the things that have happened to you in the past, and I could see my childhood as like as an area of where I could be like, why me or poor me, and like honestly my childhood was not even that horrible compared to the things that some people experience, but I don't allow it to keep me from sharing my story, because I think that it's really important. And I think everyone has an experience and everyone has a story for a reason, and I'm choosing rather to use my past as a way to help others rather than using my past to like hinder me or to keep me small or to keep me stuck in that victim mindset. And so like I just want to share those things because I became very withdrawn. And so if you notice that within your children, that's just kind of a message I'm getting recently. And even you might want to withdraw. You might feel the overwhelming emotions of like grief and sadness and despair and fear and uncertainty and anxiety. And you may want to withdraw. You may want to go to those coping mechanisms where you know, maybe you find yourself eating more, maybe you find yourself watching TV more, maybe you find yourself scrolling the internet more, maybe you find yourself, you know, being hard on yourself more. These are all coping mechanisms. So what we have to learn to do is teach ourselves new coping mechanisms that are healthy, that make us feel good, that uplift our energy, that make us feel centered and connected and grounded and safe. So yeah, let's get a little hoppy, let's get a little jumpy. I do like to move around, like just kind of allow yourself to bounce, let yourself bounce, hop. But we're just gonna like imagine your feet like coming, like bring your awareness to your feet. So imagine, like, what does your ground feel like? Are you on carpet? Is it squishy? Are you on hardwood floor? Is it hard? Like whatever it is, just bring your awareness to your feet. Don't try not to clench the toes. Yeah, it's just gonna be really simple here. So we're just gonna stand really tall. First, we're gonna come into mountain pose, and you can keep your feet about hip width apart, and you're just gonna stand nice and tall. So you want to bring the energy up from the front, like try to lift your pelvic floor. Bring your hips so your hips are aligned with your shoulders. Bring your shoulders kind of back. You can imagine like squeezing your shoulder blades together, but also keeping your shoulders really relaxed. And then drawing like a very straight shot right up the back. So from our root chakra all the way to the crown of your head. So you can imagine your tail, imagine you're a dog, shake your tail, or whatever animal you like that has a tail. And then imagine your tail, and your tail goes all the way up to the top of your head. And this is where you wear your crown, right? So we're imagining energy coming all the way up from the base of our spine, all the way up to the top of our head. And you can just imagine this begin to lift you, and to begin to straighten you out. And this really helps your breathing. So we can take a few deep breaths here. Bring your awareness to your feet always. Try to, like when your mind starts to wander, because it's always going to wander, then just bring yourself back to your breath, back to your body in some way. So if you want to imagine bringing yourself back to your feet, take a deep breath in, lift your chest, hold at the top for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and exhale slowly. Feel your shoulders relax as you breathe out. And we'll do another one. Breathe in deeply. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and exhale slowly. Shoulders drop down the back. We'll do another one more. Breathe in deeply. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release. Okay, and just you're gonna just move your hips around because we are gonna move into the hips. We're gonna open the hips today. Like I said, I've learned this recently that in Chinese medicine that the jaw and the hips are really connected. And so when our hips are a little tight, maybe we can notice ourselves clenching our jaws. That's another, when you're clenching your jaw, that's another sign that you're in a state of like anxiety or worry, and just nice slow movements here. We're doing just a little bit of hip circles. This is great to get the energy flowing and to just just a good way to ground yourself. But notice, like, just bring your attention to your face, soften your face, soften your jaw. You can think of the frog. I think of the frog and I think of a tongue. You know, like they catch their lunch and their dinner with their tongue. So make sure you relax your tongue. Relax it. And your teeth. Okay. All right. So you can keep your feet about hip width apart, and you can kind of bring them out if you want. Like I said, this might be a little uncomfortable for you. So especially if you've never done it or you're not used to it or your body's just not used to moving this way. And let me tell you, this one has kind of been challenging for me, just because I have a lot of pain in like my knees. It's like in your joints. So just be prepared. And we're just gonna go ahead and we're just gonna like squat down. And bring your hands to your knees. We're gonna come all the way down. Hands on the ground. And bring your fingertips to the ground. That can help support you. But you're just going to squat down like you're just in a squat. And this is just called froggy pose. And it's really great for the root chakra. So you can stay here, but try to like lift your heart. If you can't get off the ground or if you need your hands, that's totally fine. Just use your hands to support you. Use your fingertips. If you need to come all the way down, that's okay too. And it's okay if your feet, like your heels, don't touch the ground. That's totally okay. They don't have to touch the ground. Just feel this like opening, this stretching in your lower back. I feel it right here in my knees, but I feel it in my hips too. Another great thing you can do is just put your fingers down, your hands down. I like to put my elbows right at like where my knees bending, and kind of like push outwards, like creating like I'm pushing in with my knees and I'm pushing out with my elbows, kind of creating this like push and pull effect. And this really gives a nice hip opener and just really helps stretch out those hip sockets. And if you have any emotions come up during this time, or if you feel any like grief or sadness, or you just feel like crying, it is important to know that we store a lot of emotions in our hips. And so when we come into these poses where we're using our hips a lot or we're opening our hips, this can open up like cellular memory. And that's where we store our emotions. So it might bring up emotions. That's totally fine. And don't like beat yourself up. Like use that curiosity. Where am I at today? How am I feeling? Like being in this position, how does it make me feel? Do I feel funny? Do I feel weird? Do I feel uncomfortable? Do I feel in pain? Get curious. Like how are you feeling? What's coming up for you? Is your mind wandering? Is it telling you thoughts like you can't do this or it's too painful? And just kind of like coming back to your breath. And you can get kind of bouncy here. This is kind of hard for me. I never thought it would be so hard to just like bounce around, but this is fun to do with your kids, like to just bounce around. Ribbit? Ribbit? I like to get the sound effects, you know. Just hopping along. And it really is, it's not that comfortable, honestly. It creates a lot of discomfort for me, like a lot of, but it feels so good at the same time. I like to come up. It's great for balancing, so always returning to the breath. Bring your hands to the floor if they're not still there. And I just like to create some space here. just like to spend some time in this position. And actually what I've been learning, this is really funny thing, but like I've been wanting to, okay, I just have this deep desire to be a mother. Obviously if you're a woman you'll understand the desire, maybe. It's not for everyone I guess, but for me it's really strong, and so I've been wanting to do things that are going to help me like get through pregnancy, because honestly I do have a fear of like giving birth in our society. If you need to come up for a minute, I'm going to come up because it's hurting my knees. But we're going to go down into another one, and then I'll end it with the meditation. So yeah, so giving birth, this is a great position for giving birth, especially if you're pregnant. This is really going to help you. Like my guides just show me. Like I said, I'm kind of have this fear of giving birth, and it's kind of been put into our minds through society that birth is really painful. You see these women screaming on TV, you see them screaming in movies, and I'm not denying that it's painful. But what I am saying is that we have not been properly prepared to give birth. And in my humble opinion, which I won't even go there, I'm just saying, like, I will not give birth in a hospital. I cannot fathom the idea of giving birth in a place that's not familiar to me, that's surrounded by so many energy bodies, and what I mean by energy bodies is people with so many lights and just so many people. Like I don't know, for me, I'm more of like a natural person, and I like to like do things my own way. I don't like to be bossed around. I know that when I'm giving birth it's going to be a very like euphoric experience, and so I've actually been guided by my guides to do certain practices that will help me through labor. And it's about transcending the pain. Like I said, I'm not denying that you're going to be in pain, but you have to see that pain as pleasure. And so really transcending the pain and looking at it from a higher perspective, and seeing it as really birthing God. And so it's actually a very orgasmic experience. I know a lot of people have not really had that experience. That's something I believe. I don't really believe in this whole idea that it's painful and excruciating and just like, I don't see that, but it's also been bred into us for a really long time. And like I said, I don't think women are accurately prepared for their bodies to do what they were actually intended and very naturally made to do. Because when I think about like an animal, my dog gave birth once, and the place she wanted to give birth was like underneath a bed in a dark place, you know. And if I think about that, and I think about our very animal instincts, it's like, my idea is not to go to a hospital that's filled with tons of people and to have people do this for me. My instincts are to go to a place and to create a nest for myself, a place where I feel a sacred space for myself, and to give birth literally on my own. Which I'm not saying I'm going to be giving birth on my own. I'm obviously going to have assistance, but it just seems so weird to me that we put the birth of our child in other people's hands, like, and that we're not taking the proper care of our bodies, and we're not preparing our bodies enough, you know. And people are like putting things into their bodies, which I'm not even going to get in this whole lecture, but because I don't want to lecture anyone. Everybody has their own path, their own, you know, way of doing things, and this is just what I've been guided by my guide. So yes, this position feels very natural when you're in labor, to just come into this kind of position and to kind of, you know, you're just going to want to like push that out. It'll like help to take off the pressure is what they're telling me. So like I said, I've never given birth before, so I can't really say that. I mean, I've given birth in past lifetimes, but I work really closely with my daughter who's in spirit, and she really helps me to, you know, she practices like being in my body, her spirit, and so it's just like energy. I'll feel her energy. She likes to practice. She likes when I'm exercising. She likes when I'm like really deeply connected to my body, or like in nature, or I'm doing yoga a lot. So those are ways in which she helps me connect, because what's really important is when we have children, they're meant to help us raise our vibration. So they're meant to teach us to come to a new level, to kind of up our game, to be able to prepare ourselves in order to assist them in living their highest, to be their highest selves. So really they come to teach us to be our highest self so that we can teach them to be their highest self. And so yeah, so if you're pregnant or wanting to be pregnant, or you know, if you think of a natural birth as something you are interested in, then this is a really great position for just like just opening up the hips and kind of like relieving that pressure. Like they're telling me, like when you're in labor and you're having like labor pains, that this is actually very helpful rather than just like ignoring it or trying to like push it away without, like with medications and stuff. I don't really like that. I don't like that idea. I'm not saying if you've done that that it's wrong. I'm not judging you at all. It's just something like as I've, you know, grown more spiritually, and as I connect more deeply with that being that I'm going to birth, like my values have shifted, my ideas, my beliefs have changed. So, all right, now that we're in this position, we're gonna just kind of, I want to show you one of my favorite things. We're just gonna come down. So come down to your knees gently, slowly. And this was one of my favorite things when I was a kid. I guess I didn't really realize this. I just have pictures of it now, and I remember my parents telling me this is something I did, but I really love to just kind of come into this little pod within myself. So I like to I'll kind of come this way, see me. Kind of like bring your legs about as wide as the yoga mat. They don't even have to be that wide. And we're kind of sitting back on our heels. So we're going to kind of come into a child's pose, but mine's a little bit different. So just kind of take your own version. You can put your arms out. You can put them next to your sides and back, but I like to tuck mine in, and I like to put them in between my legs, and then I like to put my forehead to the ground. So I'll just show you here really quickly. You're not going to be able to hear me, but for me, that's one of the most comforting poses. Like I could be there for a very long time, like up to 20 minutes at least, just sitting there. I like to come back to my breath and just, I don't know, I like the idea. It's almost like you're in a womb, you know, like you kind of you like cuddle yourself up really small. You're kind of like this little ball. And it's really important to do that for yourself. It's one of the great ways you can just like take care of yourself. All right, so we're gonna come onto the bum here, the booty. And we're going to end it with a little meditation for finding the inner voice. And this is like where I kind of want you to get a little bit curious and to kind of stay open-minded. And this is great to, you know, after a long day, especially if you think of kids, they go to, you know, like school, and which I know they're not right now, but, you know, and just as adults, you're at work, you know, your mind, it gets so filled with other people's thoughts, other people's ideas, other people's opinions, and what happens is I kind of am seeing this self-image. I kind of want to give you a little idea of this picture that I'm seeing of self-image. So we have a self-image that's pure and whole, and like you can just see right through it. It's very clear. Think of the image of God. You know, He created you in His image, right? And so we have this image that God has created us in, and we have this pure, untouched image of ourselves. And then we come into this world, and we have our senses, you know, like I was saying, and our senses can become very overloaded. And these senses really begin to, I'm seeing it as like a collage. So our self-image becomes this collage of how other people see us, how other people perceive us. And our holy, pure self-image that God created us in becomes distorted by this image that other people have of us. And so we begin to see ourselves through this very distorted lens, through this very limited lens, through this lens that is not authentic, it's not true to who we are. So what we're really doing when we're finding our inner voice is kind of finding that that inner self, that true essence of who you are, that true essence of you. Not what everybody, may perceive you as, but who you truly are. So you can start by just putting your hands, we're going to make sure we're sitting up nice and straight. You can sit on a pillow or a blanket, or even if your back isn't strong enough yet, if you want to sit up against a wall, you can do this laying down, you can do it on a couch, you can do it in a chair. I just want you to be comfortable. Whatever's comfortable for you, you can kind of give your neck some love here by doing a little couple rounds here. Back and forth, and then do it to the other side. All the while you're holding your core up. Holding yourself up by engaging your core. And kind of you want to keep those shoulder blades back like they're still trying to touch each other. So this might cause, you might just be a little bit sore there, or your back might get tired. That's totally normal, especially if you're not used to sitting in this in meditation pose, or you're not just used to being sitting still like this. So it takes practice, and this is a practice. So I encourage you to continue your practice of just, sitting with yourself and being with yourself for 5-10 minutes a day. That's it, And if you want more, then you'll create more time. But if you can dedicate yourself to just doing 5 to 10 minutes a day, that's a gift you give yourself, and we all deserve that. Okay, so let's begin to bring our awareness to our breath. Breathing in the nose and out the mouth gently. Let your shoulders relax. Remember, bring that awareness, that softness to your jaw. And we're going to get curious here. Curious about how we're feeling. You might find that your thoughts wander. It's okay. One misconception about meditation is there's this idea that we're here to get rid of our thoughts, and we're not here to get rid of our thoughts. We're here to observe our thoughts and recognize that we are the observer. We are not the thoughts, we are not the emotions. And this helps us to really regulate and calm our nervous system. I think a lot of people more now than ever just need to calm their nervous system. So one of the greatest resources and tools that we have to heal the nervous system is our breath. Yay! Our breath, our beloved breath. Think of your breath as spirit. Definitely, if you haven't by now, go ahead and close your eyes. Or if that makes you feel weird, that's okay too. Just gently close them. And then just allow my voice to guide you. You can place your hands wherever feels comfortable, on your knees, on your thighs. Just continue to focus on your breath. One of the greatest ways is to make your breath audible. That way it helps you stay more connected to it, and your mind doesn't wander as much. So try to make it so you can hear your voice. And bring your awareness also to the room that you're in. If there's anything you hear in the room, I hear a little heater going. I hear the birds chirping. You might hear a clock ticking or a fan blowing. While you're still breathing and focusing on your breath, you're also bringing your attention to your surroundings. So there's this idea that when we're present, that we're somehow in another world, but really we're just more deeply connected to the here and now, to our environment. One of my favorite things as a kid, and still now as an adult, is to always listen for the sounds of the birds. Always draws me back to the present moment. always helps me connect. You know, here we go again with the voice. You think of birds and they sing your little song. And that's kind of like our soul. When we're tapped into our truest essence of ourselves, we emanate this certain vibration that's like our own little soul song. So we all have our own little soul song. You can think of that as like your voice. Let's go in search of this little soul song within ourselves, this little voice within us that's curious, that's playful. One of the greatest things about self-discovery in my own personal journey is that I do have like a very childlike mind, and so it's like I always ask why this, why that. Think of like a 4-year-old. We all have that 4-year-old aspect within ourselves that's really curious, that wants to know about the earth, that wants to know about things, that just wants to learn. It's like a little sponge. We get to a certain age where we like start to think like, oh, we know everything. That could be further from the truth. There's so much information for us to know and learn. It's impossible for us to know everything. So I think it's important to come back to that place. It's like that beginner's mindset, like recognizing that you don't know everything. You know how they say like curiosity killed the cat? Well, curiosity to me kills the ego. And as soon as you begin to get curious about the present moment, instead of like a lot of people are in resistance to the present moment. They want to be somewhere else. They want to feel something else. They're really resistant to the here and now. And that's only because the ego wants to be in control. The ego dissolves in the present moment. So curiosity kills the ego. As soon as we begin to approach the present moment with a sense of curiosity, what am I learning? Why am I here? Why am I here right now? Why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? Why? It's definitely a good question to ask yourself. Why am I here? Why am I feeling this way? And the more questions you ask, the more answers you'll receive. So just be open. That's why it's important. We're here to open our minds, open our hearts. Continue to focus on your breath. Get curious. Is your breath a little shallow today? A lot of us tend to breathe very shallow. We don't take deep breaths. Deep conscious breaths are like medicine. And the nose will hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. Release the shoulders. Check in with your jaw. Make sure you're soft in the face. Make sure you're not gripping in the fingers. Just notice where you're holding any tightness, where you're clenching. Bring a softness to this area of yourself. And breathe in another deep breath. Expand the belly and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. Deep breath in and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale slowly. We're going to do 2 more of these. Inhale through the nose. And hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. One more time. Breathe in deeply. And hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. Alright, now you can continue your regular breathing. Kind of find a little smile, maybe a little laugh, a little giggle. And then we're going to dive a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper. Listen to the sound of my voice. Or imagine, especially if your mind's chattering, we're going to imagine diving deep. First we're going to move down. We're going to do a little body scan. So move down, bring awareness to your third eye, which is located in between your eyebrows. So if your eyes aren't closed now, try closing your eyes now and place your focus here, right in between the eyebrows. We're just going to take a minute here to clear out any blocked or stagnant energy from this space, opening us up to our inner vision, our inner world, our inner guidance, our inner teacher, our inner student, our inner child. This is where I said when we get curious and we start to ask questions, the place we're going to receive the answers is right here in this spot, this spot of the third eye. So when we close this aspect of us, instead of searching outside of us for answers in books and healers and teachers, the best guide we have is ourselves, our own soul. Because each of our paths are so different. Each of our soul songs have a different tune that only we know. Only we can understand. Continue to breathe here at a normal pace. Okay, now we're going to bring our energy down into our ears. Oh, one of my favorite things is the sound of like frogs croaking in the background, crickets. One of my favorite sounds as a child. I lived out in the country and just that sound would put me to sleep every single night. Sounds of nature. And this is where we're going to hear our guidance. This is where we're going to connect with the wisdom of our own soul. So what we can do is turn our hearing inward here. Begin to bring our awareness to the sound of our heart beating in our chest. I hear this as kind of like a little throbbing in my ears. And it's this connection to this inner voice, right, that we're searching for. This inner voice. We want to come back to this inner voice. This inner guidance system. We all have our internal GPS that guides us through times of challenge, through times of difficulty, through times of uncertainty. And we can really get in tune to this voice. We don't feel alone. We don't feel abandoned. We don't feel left out in the cold. We feel connected. We feel guided by our own heart's wisdom. Our heart is so wise. We've had a lot of pain here in our hearts. We're going to move down to our throat chakra. Moving down into the throat. Remember, this is where we speak. This is where we use our voice. Our words are valuable. Our words are important. I'm going to cleanse the energy here for you. Remember, all you have to do is kind of sit here and focus on your breath. Allow my voice to be the transmission. Allow my voice to help you bring awareness to the different parts of your body. So in your throat, you might feel like notice if you're holding, get curious about what energy you're holding in your throat. Does your throat feel kind of like tight and constricted? And notice this in your relationships too. If you find it hard to be yourself, to speak your thoughts, to speak your feelings, to speak your beliefs, to speak your truth to your partner, this is a time to get curious about your relationship and ask yourself, why am I here? Why am I in this relationship if I can't be true to who I am? So notice where maybe you don't say anything at all, maybe you stay quiet. I know for me, growing up, I was bossed around by my parents. I mean, they were doing their jobs as parents, so I'm not like discrediting them at all, but all I'm saying is I wasn't really allowed to have a voice. I wasn't allowed to have an opinion. And for me, I'm a free thinker, and I was kind of born into this conformist family, this patriarchal family, where you abide by rules and you follow the norm, you follow the crowd, and you don't think outside the box. And this really hindered my voice. And as I grew up and I was in relationships, even just with friends or, guys that weren't necessarily like committed relationships, but they were still relationships in my opinion. You don't stand up for yourself. You don't express your heart. You don't express your feelings. Maybe you don't even express your joy or your love. And then maybe your voice kind of becomes shut off and you become angry, or you become cold, or you become hard, or you become mean, or you become judgmental. You tend to cut people down with your words because maybe you were cut down by people's words. Instead of repeating this pattern and projecting it onto other people, we learn to find that inner voice. Because our inner voice is going to be gentle. Our inner voice is going to be nurturing and encouraging and uplifting and loving. It's not going to put anyone down. It's not going to criticize. That's our ego. That's our mind. Remember, those thoughts are not who you are, but your inner voice is the truest essence of yourself. So when we connect to that, we begin to communicate differently. We communicate differently with our children. We communicate differently with our partners. We communicate differently at work. We communicate differently with our friends. We communicate, most importantly, differently with ourselves from this place of, I don't know about you, but for me, I was really hard on myself. I wasn't very nice to myself. And that inner voice teaches us how to kind of be kind to ourselves, how to talk to ourselves with compassion and love and grace. And as a result, we begin to talk to people in that manner as well. And then, because we're talking to people like that, it begins to be reflected to us and people begin to respect us more. So if you find you have trouble being respected in your relationships as well, this is directly related to the amount of respect you have for your own being. So it can be easy to blame other people for not treating you the way that you think you deserve to be treated. But here's a question for you to ponder. Am I treating myself the way I desire to be treated? If I desire to be lovingly respected and encouraged and uplifted by a partner, am I doing that for myself? Am I talking to myself in that manner? Am I encouraging myself? Am I uplifting myself? Am I loving myself? And if not, don't be hard on yourself. This is where we learn compassion and grace and true inner strength. What we begin to do is shift that internal dialogue. Remember to stay here focused on your breath as you listen to me talk here. I love the throat chakra. I love using my voice. But like I said, I was kind of suppressed. And this held me back. So when you're new to speaking your truth or sharing your voice or sharing your feelings or expressing yourself in any way, be gentle and kind to yourself. Your voice might shake. You know that feeling you get in your throat when you're like really wanting to cry in front of somebody, but you don't want them to see you as weak, and you just don't want to feel that vulnerable, and you begin to feel like this like lump or this like tightness. I can't really explain it. It's like this feeling in your throat that your throat is like it wants to like, I don't know, it just becomes, kind of feels hard and it hurts. Just notice when you do that. And that's when you'll realize you're withholding that inner voice. You're withholding that voice within you. And it's really important to remember that there's a difference between your inner voice and your ego. If you're wanting to react to somebody and say harsh or mean things or condescending things, that's coming from ego. But if you want to really express your feelings, if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling lonely, if you're feeling upset in some way and you want to express this to a partner, to a loved one, to a friend, and you're noticing that it's hard for you to do that, then be gentle with yourself. And practice. Maybe just practice writing first before you even start speaking. Breathe in the nose and into the belly. We're going to bring this energy down into our heart chakra. And I love this energy because think of green, think of the frog. Let's think of the frog here. Bring a little smile, bring a little laughter. And just get really quiet, really silent here. Listen to your heartbeat. And if your mind wanders, come back to the breath. Come back to the awareness on your bum. Allow yourself to soften here. Notice if you're clenching your jaw, clenching your hands, clenching your toes. Do a little check-in. Open and soften here. Think of like a lily pad. Now it just sits above the water. It doesn't sink into the water. Even when the frogs jump on it, it doesn't give way. Think of your heart like that. You're going to have a lot of emotions. Your heart is like your emotions. Think of it like the water or the pond. Instead of seeing these emotions as like permanent stops, see them, they're just leap pads. We're just leaping from one pad to the next, one emotion to the next. We're just leaping through these emotions. Think of a frog just leaping from emotion to emotion. It doesn't get sucked in by the water. It makes its way through, makes it from one side of the pond to the other. Sit here with yourself, get curious, how are you feeling? Are there any emotions coming up for you? Are you feeling resistant? Are you thinking about like what you could get up and make for dinner later, or what you're gonna wear to work tomorrow, or how much stuff you have to get down on your list? I want you to take this time to just slow down and be. Just observe. And imagine your throat, how you see a frog's throat kind of go like, it bulges out. Kind of imagine yourself here. You're just being. Imagine your throat expanding, finding that inner voice. Because what we want to do is allow our soul, which would be from like our heart, to open up our throats. And give us the courage and the bravery to speak with conviction, with truth, with honesty, with love. So imagine your heart's expanding here, and as your heart's expanding, so is your throat, like the frog's throat. I can't even do it. And we're just creating space here. We're creating space in the heart. Think of just a beautiful green color surrounding your entire body right now. Just this green light protecting and holding you. Just in this green bubble. Maybe begin to feel that peace here. That's great. That's exactly what we're going for. Continue to focus on your breath. Breathing in the nose and out the mouth. Expanding our hearts. Expanding our throats. Connecting the two to find our inner voice. To speak with love. To speak with compassion. To speak with grace. And in your most troubling and difficult times, I hope you can come back to this practice. And remember to be kind to yourself. To be gentle toward yourself. To use your words to nurture. To use your words to uplift. To use your words to encourage. It's going to be so much easier to listen to those thoughts of the ego, of the mind. But remember, you're the observer of those thoughts. They're not you. Find your inner voice. Come back to your heart. And drop into this heart space. You notice maybe you have less to say, which is very important. I feel like the biggest part of being curious and asking a lot of questions is also being able to listen, to sit still. Like we have to kind of sit still in a classroom and listen to our teachers, right? Well, our souls are our teachers. And what we have to do is sit our minds still, sit our bodies still. When we can still our mind and we can still our bodies, we can allow our souls to teach us. We are our own greatest teachers. So just get curious. What do you want to know more about? Or don't you want to know more about who you are, what you're capable of, where you came from? And that could be, you could be interested in your ancestral lineage, but also like, what about your soul family? What did you come here to do? Why am I here? It's a great question to start asking yourself. You can't force the answers. All you can do is create space like we're doing now. We're creating space in the heart. We're creating space in the mind. We're creating space in the body. We're creating space in the throat. And as we create this space can be filled with knowledge, with wisdom from our own soul. All we have to do is unlock it. All we have to do is listen. So it's equally as important as it is to communicate. It is very important to listen. Let's take a big deep breath in. Pull your shoulders all the way up to your ears as you breathe in. Hold. Sigh it out. We're going to do 2 more. And when you sigh, I want you to just let out a big sigh. Make a moan, make a loud noise. It doesn't matter who's around or if there's anybody around, if anybody can hear you, just let it out. So let's breathe in. Shoulders up to the ears, pull tight. And exhale, sigh it out. Okay, even louder next time. Ready? Here we go. Breathe in deeply, shoulders to ears. And exhale. Let it all go. Perfect. Now you can bring your hands together in prayer position, place them at your heart. We're going to lift our hearts a little bit, pull their shoulders back a little bit, and sit up nice and tall. Take another deep breath in. Relax the shoulders. Another deep breath in. Relax the shoulders. And the third and final one more deep breath all together. And release. Thank you, God, for this earth. Thank you, God, for this body. Thank you, God, for this space. It's just like a little prayer I like to say at the end of each little meditation or little sequence there. So I hope this is helpful to you. I hope you have a wonderful day wherever you are, and I will be back next time.